Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 149. My name is Victor Vasquez. Appreciate you joining me on this episode and this channel where all we do is talk about movies that come out in theaters. Sometimes we'll talk about movies that come out in streaming. And the end goal of this podcast is not only to discuss movies, but to decide, is a movie after one viewing, is it rewatchable? Is it something that becomes timeless in your opinion? Now, that's going to be the key, your opinion. Everybody has their own thoughts on what movie is good, what movie is bad. The cool thing about it is that nobody's wrong. Everybody's got their own opinion. Now, sometimes you might be in the majority, sometimes in the minority, but again, it's really your opinion. And well, if you want to voice your opinion about the movies that are going to be covered on this channel for the rest of 2025, well, great place to do that is by just following us, subscribing to anywhere that you listen to the Timeless Movie Podcast. You can follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. Give us a listen, give us a follow, subscribe, comment, do all the good stuff. Leave us reviews. It's super easy, 30 seconds. Whether you liked us, didn't like us, definitely want to improve this experience for you guys. Now, one of the experiences in regards to movies that we recently talked about is episode 148, in which I talked about the film starring Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch, and that film is called The Roses. It is a comedy slash drama, but it just hit me in a good spot because I had such a great time watching that movie. So if you have not listened to episode 148 of the Timeless Movie Podcast, go give it a listen. And if you've seen The Roses, well, leave a comment and let me know if you agree or disagree with my opinion of that film being timeless or not. All right, that's it for the housekeeping. Let's jump into this week's episode in which we are talking about Darren Aronofsky's newest film, Caught Stealing. This one stars Austin Butler, Zoe Kravitz, Matt Smith, and a whole ensemble of other actors. We'll get to that a little bit later of what other actors are coming out of this movie, but one of the reasons why I wanted to watch this film is because of the fact that I actually saw a couple of set photos and different types of images of Matt Smith and Austin Butler filming this movie in New York. And so that got me really excited because I saw Matt Smith had some crazy mohawk. He looked like a punk rocker. And so I'm just really curious as to what the story was going to be. Then I ended up finding out that it was Darren Aronofsky, who has made great films in the past and also is going to be a crime type of a movie. So I was all in. Now that the film is out in theaters and people can check it out, let's go ahead and segue over into the non-spoiler thoughts so we can discuss Caught Stealing a little bit more. All right, Caught Stealing is directed by Darren Aronofsky. If you are not aware, Darren Aronofsky has made films like Requiem for a Dream, he's made The Wrestler, Black Swan, The Whale, many different types of movies. And so this is his newest film, and it stars Austin Butler, Matt Smith, Zoe Kravitz, Bad Bunny, Regina King, Liev Schreiber, Vincent D'Onofrio. So many actors come out in this film, and each one of those individuals has a different part to play in this crime story, this crime thriller, but there's also some comedic moments that occur. And so if you're wondering, what the heck is this movie about? Well, let me give you a little plot synopsis. That way you have an idea of what the film is trying to tell you in case you haven't seen it yet. Caught Stealing stars Austin Butler as a character named Hank. Hank is a bartender. He's not from New York. He's actually from San Francisco. And he actually had really big dreams in his life. He actually was meant to be drafted to the MLB. So he had dreams to be a Major League Baseball player and just play for his favorite team, the San Francisco Giants. But after one incident where he got into a car crash, his whole career basically ended because of a knee injury. And so now he moved over to New York. He now works as a bartender, and he actually has a relationship with Yvonne, who is played by Zoe Kravitz. And so you're just seeing the normal day of Hank, and then he ends up going with Yvonne to his apartment, and that's where he meets up with his neighbor named Russ. Russ is played by Matt Smith. And so Russ ends up telling Hank, hey, Hank, I need your help. Can you take care of my cat? I'm going to be out of town for a little bit. What Hank doesn't know is that as Russ leaves and goes to London, a couple of people start knocking at Russ's door and they want something that Russ has. And so before you know it, Hank is now in a pickle. He is now basically being put in the situation where these different crime families and individuals are looking for Russ, and because they can't find him, well, the next best person is Hank. And so now Hank has to find a way to get out of this situation alive without having to, lose the cat, lose Yvonne, or lose himself. That's where I'll leave it. Again, very vague. Don't want to spoil or ruin anything for you guys, but that is essentially what the story is about. Now, what do I think about the movie now that I've seen it? Well, let me give you a high level overview because I had a great time with this movie. I thought this movie rocked. There was so many thrilling and exhilarating moments, and it's all because of how the story is framed, and it makes you guess. It makes you try to figure out, well, you think this is where the story's going to go? Nope. It just pivots or it zigzags. And I really love when movies do that. A very weird analogy is like when my brain, how it works is that when I'm watching a movie, it's kind of like trying to figure out the puzzle. I'm trying to get all these pieces of all these characters, the scenes, and my brain is trying to figure out, okay, I think this is what's going to happen. And then eventually, I'm pretty sure I'm 99% wrong as to what ends up happening in a movie. But what I love about this movie is that it's giving you little tidbits. It's giving you, okay, here's this person, and then it flips the entire puzzle on its head. And now you don't even know where this story is going to go. Who is Hank going to interact with next? Who's going to help him? Who's going to turn on him? Just so many wild interactions. But that's really what I love about stories is when I'm trying to figure it out and I have no clue what the end game is. And this film, Caught Stealing, it just does that so well and executes it perfectly. Now, that might not be for everybody. Some people don't want to keep guessing and figuring out like different things that are going to happen. But for me, that works in my opinion. Now, apart from just talking about puzzles and guessing, let me jump into a couple of pros and cons. That way I can give you a little bit more context without spoiling why I liked Caught Stealing. Okay, first pro that I want to give Caught Stealing is the entire production design and aesthetic of New York. For the most part, the characters are always kind of walking around and living in the Lower East Side of New York. And so I really dug how they filmed all of those scenes, but also just how everything looked. The apartments looked all cramped. You had the bar that Hank would always work at. You had the subway. There would also be famous landmarks, like you would see the Twin Towers. Because this film took place in 1998, the Twin Towers are still there. They would go to Flushing Meadows in Queens. I'm a big US Open tennis fan, so it was cool seeing that. Coney Island, the Brooklyn Bridge, all these different elements that they showed within the film. And again, just aesthetically, the vibes of New York just felt so cool. And so I really like it when the environment that the actors and the characters are in kind of pulls you in because of how it looks. And it just makes the experience of watching the movie even better. So really dug the aesthetic of New York. Second pro for me are the different interactions that Hank has with the characters in this world of Caught Stealing. I think they nailed it whenever he spoke with a detective named Roman. Roman was played by Regina King. There was these Jewish scary monsters that they called them, played by Liev Schreiber and Vincent D'Onofrio. Anytime Hank would interact with them, it just built the world of Caught Stealing and kind of showed you how much crime was in this Lower East Side of New York, all just trying to find one individual, Russ. And so again, every single dialogue or conversation that Hank would have would be interesting because again, you yourself as the audience, you're trying to figure out, well, what the heck did Russ do to get so many people against him? So many people trying to find him. And again, that just added to the entire kind of vibe of this movie. It was, again, every interaction was interesting, and I wanted to see, okay, was somebody gonna try to help out Hank, or were they actually just trying to con him as well? This leads me also into my last pro, which is the execution of the comedic moments in this movie. Now, this is a crime slash comedy type of movie, but I would say that there's not so much comedy where it just completely makes this something like Naked Gun or The Roses, right? Those films are again predominantly more of that comedy. This is definitely more on the crime and thriller side of it. But where the comedy shines is when there's high tension filled moments when you just feel like there's so much going on and then one character will give a line or say something or a situation around them just makes the entire audience laugh in the theater. And that happened various different times. Again, it never overexposed itself. It never crossed the line of being too comedic. It just picked its moments. and it really worked. Like there's a specific moment, no spoilers, but there's a time where Hank is literally something happens to him in his apartment, and he just looks at the cat that he's taking care of, and then he's like, "What the heck?" And then she's just, and that made me laugh so much. So a lot of different moments. Again, I know that I'm being very general. I don't want to spoil those kind of moments, but just know that if you do watch this movie, there's a lot of different types of comedic moments that will make you laugh. And it just, again, they picked the right moments to execute that type of a style of comedy that it, again, just doesn't take you out of the movie, but still makes you enjoy the entire adventure that Hank is going on. All right. Those are all the pros that I had. One small nitpick that I wanted to just quickly call out was, I want to say in the second or third act, there's a moment where Russ is talking to Hank and he's kind of going through his typical exposition moment, right? He's kind of giving Hank the details as to why he's in the situation. For some reason in that scene, I couldn't pick up a lot of what Russ was saying. They were driving and there was a little bit of like the background and score that was being played, but I don't know. I don't know if it was the theater and the sound that I couldn't pick up what he was saying, or if it was just Russ himself. It just went very quickly and I could not pick up on it. And so that was just a small nitpick. I wanted to just listen in on what exactly happened to Russ. Why did he get involved in these situations? And who were these crime families and why did he start working with them? So those are just small little details. I eventually got the gist as to why he did it. But again, that was just a small little con that I had in regards to the film of not being able to pick up a little bit of that important dialogue that I felt could have added a little bit more to the third act. Okay, apart from the pros and cons, now let me give you a recommendation. Should you go check out Caught Stealing in theaters or should you skip it? In my personal opinion, and I'm pretty sure you can guess it after all the pros and cons, I would actually recommend that you guys go check out this movie. If you're a fan of Darren Aronofsky, if you're a fan of crime and thriller with a little bit of funny and comedic moments, sprinkled in throughout the film, then this is the movie for you. It's especially if you like to figure out and guess what the heck is going to happen, and if you like those kind of twists and turns, I highly recommend you check this one out. Again, a lot of different performances that I think people would really like. Apart from Austin Butler, again, there's Bad Bunny that comes out of this movie. Liev Schreiber, Vincent D'Onofrio, Regina King. Everybody has their kind of moment to really shine. And so I think that's just really going to add to the enjoyment by different people that'll watch this movie. So that's my recommendation. Go check out Caught Stealing in theaters. Okay, those are all of the non-spoiler, high-level thoughts about Caught Stealing that I had after watching the movie. Let's jump into some spoiler territory and discuss whether we think this film is timeless. But before we do that, if you have not seen Caught Stealing, please jump out of the video now and jump out of the audio podcast and watch the movie. That way you don't get spoiled by anything that I'm going to say. And then come back, and if you agree or disagree with any of my thoughts and opinions, then leave them down below. Or you can also email me. There's an email for the Timeless Movie Podcast. It is timelessmoviepod@gmail.com. All one word, timelessmoviepod. So go ahead, give us an email. That way we can interact and talk about this movie or any other movie that you're interested in. All right, I rambled enough, gave you enough time. Let's jump into spoilers by answering the important question of this podcast. Is Caught Stealing timeless? Is it something that you could rewatch in the future? In my personal opinion, I'm going to say that after I watched it, after I thought about it, after writing my notes, I think Caught Stealing is a timeless movie. It has such great aspects that, again, I find very interesting for me, in my personal opinion. Now, let me give you some of those reasons. That way you can really have the full thoughts that are kind of running through my brain. First reason why I think this film is timeless is because of the twists and turns that this film takes you on. I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier on about guessing and figuring out the patterns of a movie, but my goodness, I had no clue where this film was going. At first, you have Hank go through and interact with some of the crime families. He's trying to understand, okay, well, what did Russ do? Did he steal something? Did he get, what did he harm somebody? And then as he's going through, one of the first twists that I was not expecting was his girlfriend, Yvonne, actually gets shot and killed. So Zoe Kravitz's character just completely gets taken out of the movie in the first act. And I was blown away. I did not expect that it to happen. And that again, it immediately sets you into this tone of holy crap, the stakes are serious because nobody is safe. If you can't even protect, Zoe Kravitz, then is Hank even going to make it out of this? Is Russ going to make it out of this? So that was a wild twist, and that was not only the biggest one. There was so many. You had Roman, who was a detective that was trying to help out Hank. At one point in the second act, she ends up being an antagonist. She ends up being one that turns on Hank and is actually working with Bad Bunny's character Colorado. And so I couldn't believe it. Again, another twist that ends up happening. And so there's so many moments where you as the audience, you think you have a handle on the story and you do not. I at one point in the second act, after I found out about Regina King and her character Roman turning on Hank, I just gave up at that point. I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep watching and I'm not going to guess anymore because I cannot get a grasp as to where this story is going. But I was loving every scene, loving every moment because, again, I just didn't know what was going to happen next. Was Hank going to make it? Was he going to die? I mean, it was unreal. So everything about how the story was set up, I thought that Darren Aronofsky, the writers, the producers, everybody, they nailed it with this kind of a story where, again, you just don't know what the hell is going to happen. You have all of these characters, and all they want, and again, spoilers for anybody that is still here, maybe, Russ ended up stealing money. He stole money from all these families, and now they're basically just chasing after him. Very simple, but what ends up happening, again, how it unfolds is always the interesting and intriguing part. So that is really my first reason why I think this movie is timeless and why I would rewatch it is just the various twists and turns. You just don't know what is going to happen to Hank and how he's going to process, again, just him being involved with Russ and now him being an accomplice. All right, second reason why I think this movie is timeless is the side characters and how different they all are. I mentioned it a little bit before, but you have Roman, who is played by Regina King. She's a detective. And so, again, she's kind of playing that straight kind of character where she's trying to figure out and help out Hank. Then you have Bad Bunny, play this gangster named Colorado. And he's, again, what makes him so unique is that he's the only one that speaks Spanish. So he's speaking Spanish, going in English, making some funny jokes. And so, again, his character seems wildly different from Roman and Hank. And then you have Russ, who's played by Matt Smith. He's from London. And he actually, in the movie, goes to London to visit his father, who's very ill. And he has this wild punk rocker look, a mohawk. And even him, again, every single character in this movie is just so unique that again, I can feel like every time I rewatch this movie, I can maybe focus on a different character. I can't even forget about this one, this evil guy named Pavel, played by Nikita Kukushkin. I think I'm pronouncing that name right, but he was so hilarious because he was like this mobster guy that he almost like was like half human, half animal. I just didn't. You couldn't tell. Like he would sometimes crawl on all fours when he got punched, and he would make these wild noises, and then he would use his head to not only headbutt, but to even like while somebody was on the floor, he would use his head to just slam his head into their stomach. And so again, all of these unique characters, and let me say, there was a lot of characters introduced in this movie, which could be a con. So many individuals that are brought up and shown and interact with Hank, you would think that, okay, well, I can't keep up with all these people, but again, because they're so different, because they're all individually trying to like do something very different with their characters, it just makes a lasting impression on you that like, oh yeah, I remember Pavel. I remember how wild he was, or yeah, I remember Regina King's character of Roman, or yeah, I remember Vincent D'Onofrio as his character of Shmuley, as this Jewish guy. And so all of that just adds to the experience of my enjoyment of Caught Stealing, because every time you watch it, you might pick up on another character that maybe you didn't think about the first time you watched it or the second time. So really love the side characters and how unique they were all played by the actors. Okay, and then the last reason why I think this movie is timeless is the cinematography. I mean, though, again, I called out the way that New York looks, and that again partly has to do with how they filmed all these scenes around New York, but also a lot of the different types of camera shots that were produced in this film. Like there's a couple of moments where a lot of the characters, whenever they were interacting with each other, it would start off very close and very up into their face. It almost felt very awkward, but I really enjoyed that because it puts you right in the position of what Zoe Kravitz's character of Yvonne was telling Hank, like trying to tell him, hey, like I need somebody that's not going to run away from their problems. And so every time they were having an intimate moment, again, it would feel very up close and personal because the camera was right up against that character's face. Or when Bad Bunny's character of Colorado was talking to Hank and trying to tell him, hey, take this seriously because I can hurt you and I can hurt your girlfriend. And the camera is right up against his face. Then there was other times where the camera would actually do this very cool zoom out. So the film starts with like a shot of a home plate, and from home plate, the entire camera kind of just roams and shoots and zooms back, and it captures the entire baseball field. Then there's other shots where you're following Hank as he's getting drunk because of this chaos that he's in, and every shot starts up with him very close and then eventually zooms out very slowly, giving you a bigger picture as to what's going on in Hank's life. I really dug that. I like when there are these unique camera shots that kind of, again, take you very close and intimate, but then want to pull you back to kind of give you a little bit more as to, hey, don't forget that this is still a big world in caught stealing. Hank is still in New York. There's still other characters that could come out of nowhere and try to get him for what he is doing or what he's trying to run away from. So really enjoyed how they again shot and they filmed all these different types of scenes in New York. And again, just making it feel very real and very raw whenever there's these conversations or these interactions would happen to Hank and other characters in Caught Stealing. All right, everybody. Those are all of my thoughts in regards to Caught Stealing. I enjoyed this one. I had such a fun time watching it. Yes, there is a lot of different types of twists and turns and a lot of crazy death and very, real and raw violence. But I don't know, it worked for me. But I want to hear from all of you. What do you think about Caught Stealing? Did you enjoy this movie? And if you did, well, if you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, leave a comment. Let me know what you thought was the best moments of this movie and if you thought it was timeless. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, well, hey, leave a review and let me know your opinions of Caught Stealing. All right, everybody. Appreciate all of you that listened all the way through this podcast to listen to my full opinions on Caught Stealing. My name is Victor Vasquez. This has been episode number 149 of the Timeless Movie Podcast. Make sure to check out next week's episode because, as you would expect, every 5 episodes we have my brother Omar join us. So we'll see what movie we end up talking about and then deciding if it is timeless. All right, everybody. Appreciate you guys and hope you have a great rest of your week.